Hi, Grant Tarian here from the Winnipeg Base, home of Star 7. We've got pilots, paramedics, nurses, physicians, engineers. We've got foundation staff, administration staff, IT, communications, ELC. We love you. Anyway, why do all these people come together? They come together for one thing. It's about the patient. GoTime.
Welcome to my office. My name is Jen Fosty.
My name is John Griffiths.
Hello, my name is Darren Etner.
Deb Duncan here with the STARS Foundation.
Hi, I'm Lucille, and this is...
My name is Howard.
My name is Cheyenne.
Hi, I'm Corinne. I'm Deb, flight nurse at STARS,
And I'm a part of this handsome crew today.
And how do I contribute to the mission?
My role is to support team members across the organization.
What I bring is my medical expertise.
So the communities that put on events in support of STARS, I go out to and show our support.
We conduct education sessions for the nurses, physicians, and paramedics right in their community with our mobile education unit.
We are constantly trying to improve and better ourselves so that we can serve our patients even better.
And this young man is educating me.
It's frightening for everybody.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we want everyone to be able to go home safe and healthy every day.
I help our STARS team do what we are best at, saving lives by keeping our computers in ELC, ops, engineering, as well as HR, finance, foundation, across all the bases up and running.
And I have the privilege of working with individuals and corporate partners to align their values and interests with those of STARS.
Many municipalities consider STARS as a lifeline for their areas.
And I think, our mission statement, we are all STARS, says it all, because it takes a whole village to do what we do.
3, 2, 1.
We are all stars.
We are all stars.
We are all stars.
We are all stars.
Stars. Nous sommes tous les stars.
Stars.
Jesteśmy wszyscy stars.
Somos stars.
Somos stars. Just hanging up. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? We're all stars?
We're all stars.
And you're going to do a separate language?
I'm going to do something different.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep, ready.
Okay, let's go.
Right. We're all stars.
We're all stars.
Cheers.
Go Jets, go. GoTime Stars.
So apparently Rick Mercer didn't retire, right? I think Grant Tarian could be hired. What do you think? He's pretty good at that. Yeah? Okay, hello, I know it's winter in Calgary, but we are here and it's gonna be a good, fun morning. So really excited to see everybody, and those of you virtually that I can't really see, but I'm sure you're there, right, Mike? I'm sure they're there, yeah. So obviously we're broadcasting from Calgary, and for those of you who are not in Calgary today, yes, we are getting another 20 centimeters of snow, if you can believe it, on April 16th, but there you go. So welcome Edmonton, Grand Prairie, Regina, Saskatoon, and Winnipeg. Thrilled that you're here. I know some of you are web streaming it in. I know the Powells are for sure, because we got a text from them this morning. So Lynn and Greg, hope you're on the couch in your jammies, slurping some coffee. And I just wanted to say a virtual hello to the bases. So hello. So you heard in the video a few times, we are all stars. And we spent a lot of time this year talking about that, because it does absolutely take a village to get this work done. Just take a look around the room. That is absolutely certain. And we've had lots of recent reminders of that. As a 24/7 operation, we're in a perpetual state of motion and activity. And that's why it's so important to stop once in a while and take stock of what we've achieved. And we've achieved a lot this year. So pretty excited to walk you through that, because strategy is really exciting to me. Come on, it's really exciting to you too. Woohoo! Yeah. So I'm going to really highlight what we've achieved in the last year, what our plan is to achieve next year, and you'll have some superstars talking to you today. So Jan Armstrong is going to be talking, Stephen Sims is going to be talking, and there might be a few more of these little videos. But just to remind you, there is only one reason that we're here, and that is because we're here for the next patient that may need us. Does that resonate with this little crowd in the front? So the little crowd in the front, for those of you virtually, is, how many people do we have? 13 family members? Is that correct? 14. See, that's important. So we're going to get to that in just a few minutes. So if we're going to take credit for making a difference in patients' lives, we know there's only one way to tell that story. And that is to tell that through one of our VIPs, one of our very important patients, and her entire family. And it is a privilege to share with you this morning Chelsea's story. There is a video going to play.
We're about 9 months and 3 weeks into Chelsea's recovery from her accident. She's not looking too bad.
On August 25th, 2007, me and my friend Brittany were driving and we were T-boned.
Me and my best friend were supposed to be going to the fair, one of the funnest places that you can be in the world, and it was tragically cut short by a 1-ton truck coming through this intersection.
We were just coming into Raymond when an ambulance was going the other way. And I've never said this before, but I said somebody's life is changing today. I didn't know it was mine, or my daughter's, or families.
Of course, it isn't something that you want to see as your child all strapped into all the gear that they got to have with them as they load them onto the helicopter. But we had a new video camera, and I thought, you know, maybe this would be something that would be good in the future to look back on.
It was pretty scary to see her having somebody breathe for her, and the STARS people that were there were amazing. They were doing their job all around, but there was also others that were comforting and saying it's going to be okay, we're going to take good care of your daughter.
We'll look at her. We'll look at her.
Thank you very much.
I knew that she was in good hands, and they invited us to walk out and watch them fly away.
Chelsea was severely injured, and she required transport to the foothills, and she needed an intensive care unit. We were the flying intensive care unit that she needed between Lethbridge Hospital and the foothills.
So the two major problems that Chelsea had were her chest injury with a very badly bruised lung and a bunch of broken ribs. Her two problems interacted with one another quite significantly. We have the ability, fortunately, in the back of the helicopter to adjust the breathing that we provide for her, monitor for the pressures, monitor for proper oxygenation and breathing for her to provide her with the best possible circumstances for brain recovery.
So having 3 providers looking after this patient for 40 minutes outside the hospital versus 1 or 2 providers in the back of a ground ambulance for 2 hours driving down the road. It's important to minimize the out-of-hospital time, and having people that have a lot of experience looking after people that are this sick in the back of the aircraft, that's helpful too, for sure.
You're sedated so you don't get upset.
When we got to see her in the ICU, she had tubes and all sorts of things plugged up, you know, on her head and everything, and it looked pretty grim.
Chelsea, oh hi. Hi, hon. Open your eyes.
It was just a lot of emotion, a lot of raw emotion, like nothing we'd ever experienced before. It is a miraculous thing to watch this girl laying in a bed who can't even stand up to walk, to learn to walk again, and feeding herself and doing things that we take for granted.
There we go.
There you go. Good job.
At 17, you normally don't have to learn all those things again.
It was not very fun.
All the way to the end of the hall and back.
They would tell me, okay, Chelsea, do 10 laps. And I was counting in my head because I couldn't speak at the time. And they would be like, okay, now do 1 more. And I would be thinking, I already did 10, I counted, but I'd still have to do one more because I couldn't talk.
Can we work on that a little bit? Part of starting to be able to talk again is being able to start to use those mouth muscles. Yeah, you want to leave. It's too hard. It's hard, isn't it? Awesome. Oh my. About 6 minutes. Honestly, can you do one with your right arm?
Holy, she's fast.
My motto is everything happens for a reason. This car accident happened for a reason. I'm where I am for a reason. I feel like I'm more compassionate and loving and kind because I have my own deficits, or whether it be my breathing or my memory or whatever, and so I can be more sympathetic to other people who have limitations. And yes, stars did help me with that. They took good care of me and they got me to where I needed to be. Really, if it wasn't for them, I might not be alive.
I mean, that's the miracle, is that we got to get our daughter back and she recovered well, and it's a group effort. We like to give Stars credit for getting her there safely and with the great medical team that was with her. And there were ICU personnel and therapists and doctors and nurses all the way along that were all part of that. 9 months later, she's out in the front yard playing with the kids, playing soccer and laughing and having fun. And she continued to improve even after that.
Okay, so this is my kind of collection of my car accident stuff that I hold dear to my heart. So Team Chelsea, and then says miracles happen to those who believe, and obviously we believe because I'm here.
Well, I can't imagine life without Chelsea. To be given the blessing of not only having her, but now to have a wonderful son-in-law and 2 beautiful granddaughters has been an amazing blessing to us.
I feel very, very lucky to be a part of her life and to be able to share all these memories together.
The great things that came out of those events were wonderful people like Stars and the first responders and every paramedic and medic and doctor that helped save the life of my beautiful, great, wonderful best friend.
It's a real rewarding part of the job to see that some of the things that we do, I think hopefully do make a difference. I'm grateful that I can play a role in that.
How fortunate I feel we were all in being given the opportunity to care for Chelsea and be involved in that recovery. I have 4 kids, and I have to say, every time I go on a flight like this, it reminds me of what could happen to any one of them and how important it is to realize that there's a young person there that has a huge potential and a future, and anything we can do to improve that down the road makes me feel very fortunate to be involved.
How tall are you? I'm 5'9".
Oh, okay. It was a privilege to see Chelsea 10 years later, but what we do when we fly patients, it is a privilege. And when people are saying goodbye to their loved ones and they see us going out the door, we know that they are trusting us to do the best job that we can for those patients. And it brings a smile to my face and tears sometimes.
Thanks to Stars, I'm still here.
What a story of survival, but persistence, hey? And when we talk about that community, the hours of rehab, the hours upon hours of family members throwing that ball to you back and forth. And to see this beautiful family in front of us is pretty incredible. It's my privilege to introduce Chelsea to you. Chelsea, please join me on stage.
I'm Chelsea. Okay, sorry, just a second. I would just like to thank STARS for putting this video together so that I have the opportunity to share my story. This story started just days before I was to start my grade 12 year. It took me a year to get back to school and graduate. 2 years later, I met and married my husband, Brandon, and we now have 2 wonderful daughters, Tycee, this is Tycee and Tegan. I love that I'm able to be a stay-at-home mom for our daughters, and that I'm able to do lots of baking because it's something that I love to do. I have some lasting effects from the accident, which include balance issues, a weak left side, breathing problems, and fatigue. I continually work hard to maintain my physical strength by exercising, but the breathing and fatigue are just considered my new normal. Fortunately, we live close to both sides of our families, and they are a huge support to us. Before my accident, I really didn't know, I never heard of STARS before, but today I think of you often, and I'm a huge advocate. It's incredible to know that as the STARS crews go out each day, that they're saving and changing people's lives. I'm thankful for the commitment and dedication you showed everyone you help. We're so fortunate to have stars in the sky. I would also like to thank my STARS crew for helping make my recovery possible. They were only with me for a few hours, but those few hours gave me the opportunity to have what I have today. On behalf of my family and myself, I wish to give you my deepest heartfelt thanks for what you do for me, what you did for me years ago, for what you do today, and what you will continue to do in the future. Thank you.
Before the missions, before the crew, before the fuel, flight suits, and gear, before our first coat of red paint, there was a need. A need for vision, a need for response, a need for courage. A need that grew from the community, for the community. And as long as there's a need, we'll be there. With you by our sides, we are all stars.
So, Chelsea, family, I just want to say a big thank you. It's not unusual for us to have a VIP come and speak at a fundraising event. What's unusual is to have you come and speak at a staff event. So it's not always that all of our staff get the exposure to your stories directly and in person. And so this was a big deal for us because this is talking to all our staff across Western Canada today, even though you can't see them. And to tell your story live meant the world to us. So again, on behalf of all of us, huge, huge thank you to the whole family for coming. So we took our first flight in 1985. And here we are, I don't know, 37,000 missions later, a lot of people touched, many lives saved. And so it's auspicious always to stand up and think about the order of magnitude of what this organization has done for a long period of time. So we're going to talk about that really exciting thing, strategic plan. And our strat plan, I know, will be familiar to all of you because I'm sure you've been staring at it day and night, making sure that we're aligned to it over the last year. So this is a 3-year plan. No big surprise. What's in the center of our plan is you, the patient. Chelsea, you're sitting right there in the center. And all of the strategies that underlie this strategy is to support that one thing, getting out the door. Okay, so it's pretty simple. I think we can all remember that. So this is a 3-year strategy. We're a full year in. So today we're going to report on what we did and what the plan is for next year. And when I'm finished, hopefully you won't be quite as exhausted as I will feel by yakking. But at the end of the day, what I want everybody to know in this room, including all of this family, is that we're all crew here at STARS. You too. And it takes the entire village to make this place happen. And so no big surprise that on both sides of supporting the patient is crew and all of our allies. So I'm going to walk through many of the elements of the plan, but really want everyone to know in the room and virtually that it's all of you, the people who fly in the helicopters, the people who dispatch them, people who keep computers running, the lights on, and yeah, all of those foundation folks who might just bring in the money. Collectively, you are all STARS crew. So who are the allies? I think everybody knows that. Crucially important people in the community, and whether that's RCMP, first responders, donors, government, all of those people that come collectively together to keep us running. Crew I've talked about, we'll talk about you much more through the day, but underneath these 10 key areas, so no big surprise that the one in red is about operational excellence. So nothing more important. I want you safety folks to know that I wore closed-toe shoes. You did notice, right? Nothing more important than operational excellence and all that that brings. But let's start with our patients. Our objective, which is written below, is to be the solution of choice for critical care transport and bridging gaps for underserved populations. And I'm going to give you a few examples today, but I hope you know that we do that every day. We're finding new and unique ways to respond so that we are providing more and more sophisticated care. In order to do this operational excellence and be in supportive of the whole patient, you'd say, what on earth is an affiliation agreement doing to support a patient? Well, so those affiliation agreements, threefold, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, actually give us the relationship with government and our healthcare system so that we can continue to provide care. So very important. Fleet renewal, as some of our famous pilots would say to us, we're just bus drivers, we just happen to drive a pretty special machine. So making sure our fleet is capable of the future, fundamentally important, and broadening our reach, as I said, we really do believe there's more that we can do. So first on the list is operational excellence. Simply put, this is about the standard we set ourselves out for ourselves and the services that we provide. We're taking some of the most injured and sickest patients in Western Canada, and in order to give them the best outcome, we need to be at the top of our game. This is a really important area to focus on, and that's why we've asked JN to speak this morning, and he's going to go through that in some more detail than I will. But I want to highlight just a couple of interesting areas of things that we are doing and things that we're considering doing. It's my pleasure to introduce you to one of our docs, who's the Associate Medical Director here in Calgary, because they asked me, do you want to do it? I said, I don't want to do it. I want a clinician to do this. So Dr. Paul Trini, come up and join me here, Paul. Do you have a mic?
Yeah, I think I'm mic'd up. Everybody can hear me all right? Well, fantastic. Last night I got asked if I would actually present at GoTime today about something that we're moving forward to do. A lot of times the patients that we transport are incredibly, incredibly sick. About 2 years or so ago, one of our flight residents was traveling with two of our amazing experienced crew. This patient had been just in a horrendous car accident, much like we'd just seen. As they brought him in, he was becoming more and more sick, increasingly unwell. And then we got stuck in the elevator in Foothills. This patient was crashing. A low blood pressure, a high heart rate, very clearly, incredibly close to death. And so at that point, it became clear from the clinical picture that the patient had a collapsed lung and they were no longer able to breathe, and now blood wasn't going to get back to their heart, and they were going to die in the elevator in one of the best hospitals in North America. Now, luckily, because we have amazing crew and we have amazing residents and we have an amazing team, we can fix this pretty quick. And we do it with something called a finger thoracostomy. So I'm going to use my professional fitness model, who we brought. Really, when we're looking at things, this is one of the simplest things in the world that we can fix and that we can do. And it's at the forefront of where pre-hospital care is going to. Very few places will do this on a regular basis. While people will fix these out in the field, the current techniques that we use, they have a failure rate of 30 to 40%. That's not okay. We don't just follow the standard of care at STARS, we have to set the standard of care. So what we're moving towards, and hopefully going to be introducing with all of our crew in the coming quarters, is the ability to do just this. We're going to imagine that Jeff has actually had his whole left lung collapse and is pushed up against the middle of his chest. So we bring his arm up, we put it all the way above his head. Almost every one of us carries a lovely knife with us at any time. Don't worry, Jeff, I promise it's clean. Now, if you all want to walk along with me while we do this, you can do the same thing. Put your arm up above your head. Just find literally, it's right beside your nipple, actually, and right at the corner of your shoulder. And as we come right up, we landmark where that is. We make a little tiny cut, just like that. And then I quite literally take my finger and push it into the chest. It's simple. It's life-saving. Easy. Thanks, Jeff. For this particular patient, he had an almost instant return of all of his hemodynamics. Everything got better. His blood pressure normalized. His heart rate came back down. And then luckily the elevator began working again, and we were able to get him down to one of our trauma resuscitation bays where we could continue. Our crews have the capability of doing this. I have the pleasure and the honor of working with some of the most talented and incredible professionals in the world. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't always be at the forefront. Very simple example of one of the next things that we're going to be doing as part of our operational excellence. Thank you.
So Jeff just said to me, he said to Deb, do you want me to take off my shirt for this? And she said, no, we're only going to first base today. Thanks, Paul, that was fabulous. I really appreciate that. Okay, so we're just gonna move outside of the patient care world for a minute and then realize it's completely connected. So what's this, do you think? So for years and years and years at STARS, we've been collecting information. We know that data is king and is going to help us figure out what we should be doing and should be doing better into the future. And a team came together this year to help us figure out, could we actually make sense of our data? And so they've been busy building a data warehouse, collecting aviation data and clinical data and ELC data, and on and on and on it goes. And they've been going from department to department to department to bring it together. And the result is pretty incredible stuff. And so you think, oh yeah, well, I'm a little more excited about that finger thoracostomy. Well, I don't know, I'm getting pretty excited about this data. Because I think what it's going to do for us is tell us where we need to go next and what we need to improve upon. So this is our data warehouse. So if you look across, it's hard to see, but across the top, STARS request, missions, patients, type, responding base, and we can dig down and dig down and dig down and dig down. I'm getting my training, I think it is it this afternoon, Jeanette? Oh, no, it's tomorrow or next week? I don't know, next month, sometime. So she only allowed me this much, and she wouldn't give me the password to get in because apparently I might hurt something. I don't know what that's about. But it's really, really incredible. So she showed it to me for what, Jeanette, 5 minutes? And I'm like, what? We need to fix this, and we need to look at that, and you know what, this will help us with these 29 new things. And so I actually think this is yeoman's work. I'd like to say a huge, gigantic thank you to everyone in IT and everyone who came together to help provide Jeanette and her team with all this information. So this was a multidisciplinary project. It involved clinical, aviation, ELC, IT, admin, foundation, all trying to link all of this together, and I'd say job extraordinarily well done, so thank you. So the affiliation agreement. Let me tell you what we were up to this past year. So of course we have agreements in all 3 provinces. I will pause and tell you that Rod Gandafor and I on Friday night did have a conversation with Minister Goodell. Minister Goodell is the federal minister in charge of emergency response and many other things. He's the number 2 to our Prime Minister, and still no, they didn't say here's a check for helicopters, unfortunately, but we pressured them because we still think there is a reason the federal government should provide us some funding. So again, no answer, but I did flat out say to him, if the answer is no, please just tell me and we will stop bugging you. And he said, okay, Andrea, the answer is not no. So we are still moving forward with the federal government. And that's fleet specific. We didn't ask them for operational funding. The partners here are important on both fronts, as everybody knows. So Alberta Health Services, Mike Lamacchia and I met with them. Our new Deputy Minister of Health, of course, was our deputy in Manitoba when we were grounded. So Milton Sussman knows us very well, and I would say is one of the reasons that we got through in Manitoba. He was a really reasoned and fabulous guy. So we did a lot of catch-up, not a lot of chit-chat about Alberta, unfortunately. Really wanted to just talk about Winnipeg. But the bottom line is this. We've got a strapped government. We report to Alberta Health Services that is trying to rationalize funds across a gigantic system, and it's difficult for them to figure out how they're going to do it. So we're just going to keep our foot on the gas there. And Mike and I have a follow-up meeting with the senior folks there in coming weeks. So we just carry on. So they haven't said no, but they also haven't said yes, right? And this seems to be our ongoing relationship with government. I'd say it's different in Saskatchewan, frankly. So we've moved the needle pretty far. We're, I'd say, about 70% the way through of the government working with us shoulder to shoulder to buy us a new helicopter and maintain our current funding. So biggest and best news from last week was they maintained our funding for another year. So that's always an annual decision that was announced publicly. So you may recall that our funding was reduced there during a previous fiscal situation. And so that's been reinstated. That's all very good news. So, and as you know, over the last week, there's been unbelievable spotlight on Saskatchewan, and that has also resulted in some increased donations. There's no question about that. Manitoba, it's the best our relationship has ever been. We have a great relationship with the WRHA. We're moving that forward, of course, with Betty Lou, and Helen Clark is our primary contact there. And Betty Lou and I are setting up a meeting with the Minister of Health in coming weeks to start talking about seriously what are we going to do with fleet. We went quieter and slower there intentionally, and now we will be moving that forward as well. So last year, lots of meetings, lots of conversations, really fell to the shoulders of Wendy Beauchesne, who does a lot of our government relation conversations, and of course Mike and Betty Lou, who are really pushing and trying to maintain those relationships. So we're coming to the 10-year agreement timeout for our affiliation agreement in Alberta. There is some interest in getting that sorted before the agreement expires, and so that's the work of this year. I'm not sure it's realistic in a year running up to an election, but we're going to try. Some of our goals for this year are a little bit stretchy. This might be one of them. Saskatchewan, to secure a fleet commitment, we were very close. And Manitoba, to really get a plan on the table. So that's the plan going forward. So, broadening our reach. So we know that this is an important goal, and so everyone's like, wow, really? I mean, we're looking after a lot of people. Do we really need to look after more? And I'll give you a couple examples. So last year, oh man, I can look here, right? I can look here, there you go. We did look at the feasibility of a couple of business opportunities. So I'll walk you through them in a minute and explain to you why we looked at them and why we walked away from them. Because at the end of the day, we're very clear on what we do and what we do well. We're not going to do something for the sake of doing it. It's got to fit our mandate and be the right thing for the organization at the time. So we do believe, though, that we are at the top of our game, and do we have an obligation, like we talked about last year, to try and do more for people who deserve to get the care that we can provide. So we do believe that. We are exploring currently a bid for critical care support in a fixed wing environment, so that might come up in Manitoba, did come up here. We are doing research through JN's group into the adequacy of access to critical care transport in our Western Canadian region. We started conversations, believe it or not, about autonomous vehicles because this is alive and well in Ontario now. EMS is using it to do site surveys to see what kind of assets they should be sending. Is there a role for unmanned vehicles in STAR's world when you think about next generation of the emergency contact center or delivering water to a First Nations community or in an outbreak, could we deliver equipment or drugs in a much more efficient way? So I don't know if we'll do it, but we're going to look at it and continue to look at it. And I would say, if you know, for our team in Grand Prairie, the whole link to northeastern British Columbia has been frustrating. There's been a lot of work that's been done this year on automated dispatch, and we will continue to really work on that next year. So, these are three things that we looked at last year. So Alberta Critical Care, I think everybody will remember, an RFP went to market and they were looking at trying to consolidate many of the fixed wing providers into less numbers, and they were looking at could we provide the care within that fixed wing vehicle separately. And so we did bid on that. We thought it was something we could do. We didn't bid on all aspects of it because there were a number of portions to that contract, and we said we were going to bid on part of it, and we lost. But we had lots of learnings as a result. It was really, really good exercise for us to go through. So we did think that we could provide better care in a really efficient way, and so we bid on it. We spent a lot of hours. We put the time into that, and we didn't win it. And we did a recap session with Alberta Health Services to ask them why we didn't win it. Some lessons out of there, probably the best lessons, you know, looking at Dave and Stephen, were probably internal, and we will look at how we can do that better. PA, that was a contract on a 911 system. Did we want to do more dispatch? And so we looked at it for, I don't know, Stephen, 15 minutes, okay, maybe a little bit longer, and said no. There were just lots and lots of issues that, you know, we are not a 911 dispatch center. But did we have skill and ability that could be lined up against that? And we thought maybe. So we looked at it. So nothing's off the table for us to consider, but we did walk away from that one. The biggest one was Kamloops. So Kamloops was an RFP for aviation only, so I need to be really clear. So aviation only, to be run out of Kamloops, very similar to our sort of flying, and for the same purpose, critical care transport. The people in the back would be medics that currently work in the system and fly with the current provider. And we really badly wanted to bid on that. We thought it might be the way to open the doors into British Columbia and get through and get ourselves established and maybe do a little learning with them about other ways they could consider providing medical care. We certainly have the expertise from an aviation perspective to go in. The components of the RFP told us, essentially to walk away. And we did, we wanted to do it. I gotta tell you, we wanted to do it. And so we looked at it from every single angle. The interesting thing is that now I've spoken to 3 providers that I would say would be 3 biggest competitors for us to consider a contract like that in Canada, and they all decided not to bid. And they all wrote a letter to, including us, to the province explaining why we didn't bid, what we thought that they should consider into the future, and how we thought, I don't know about the others, but how we thought we could improve the level of care provided to critical care patients in the province of British Columbia. So we bid on one and walked away from the other 2, and we'll have more examples of that, but one more time. And we discussed this a lot. If we'd won the bid for critical care, we also had a conversation internally that if we got it and the rules around it were something we were not philosophically aligned with, we'd still walk away. So once you win it does not necessarily mean you're going to take it. And so I just want you to know that that's the headspace of how we're walking into these opportunities. So with that work behind us, here's what we're going to focus on in the year ahead. So virtual care models, we've talked about this forever and ever. No one's come to us. We have talked about, are there areas in the Western provinces that might be taking a look at things like a northern nursing station? Would it be of benefit to do morning rounds with our team? Different ways of providing support so that we can ensure that the level of care, if there's something that we can offer, that we would love to be involved. The critical care support in a fixed wing environment, if it pops up in Saskatchewan or in Manitoba in a significant way, which we think we're hearing it might, then we would fully evaluate that with Stephen's team. We'll continue looking at the feasibility of unmanned vehicles. And we are pushing hard, and actually we think we've seen a little bit of movement with the auto launch program in northeastern British Columbia. So all areas of huge priority this year. Okay, crew, you. So, I was thinking as I was preparing for this, in every role I've ever had, I've always been asked at least once, what's the most important thing? So my roles have all been in healthcare. And I think that the standard answer that everyone expects is the patient comes first. And my philosophy has always been that the crew comes first. Because I believe if we give you the tools that you need, education, the ability to do your job, the vehicle to be transported in, and all the infrastructure to make you successful, we will provide better care. And I know that to be the absolute reality in our organization. You are amongst the best of the best, and I'm hoping you're loving this place more and more, because you gotta be pretty darn awesome to work here. And so what you said to us when we did the satisfaction survey was a couple of things. You wanted clarity on vision and leadership. So this whole strategy and these sessions of trying to make sure that you understand where we're going and you're fully aligned, to really wanting to be part of a high performance culture, and that there be ongoing huge focus on growth and development. So I want to walk you through that. We want to be the very best world-class work environment as an organization. then we need you as the world-class team to get that done. So these are the things we did. Did a lot of training this year. We trained over 125 of your colleagues in various things. The GoTime piece, as we were talking about today, really the focus on strategy, vision, culture, engagement. We reorganized stuff, focus on the project. You wanted clearer insight to why we are here as an organization, what difference we are making in the world, and how we're going to go about it. Last year, the 5-year strategy plan, it's actually 3 years. Mr. Haska, who helped me with my notes. GoTime, important way of communicating and then getting out and around to talk about what we've been doing. What did we accomplish? We had 125 people, as I said. We had many, many successful people for the Education Fund. Your leaders worked really hard on growth and development plans for all the non-operational staff. Hope you're feeling like there's a plan in front of you. Next year, your colleagues in HR are working towards, no pressure, gang, to finalizing a people strategy so that we can still move further and further and further towards that high-performance culture. So who here does not think we have a high-performance culture? Okay, can't see your hands in the other bases, but you know. That's a never-ending thing, right? If we're not always trying to be better and better and better, we will never achieve it. This is not something we're going to put up at the end of year 3 and say, tick, we achieved that. That's a forever thing. But we're going to move lots and lots more in that direction. If you're not clear on how every single thing you do contributes to us being successful as an organization, come see me. Because I'm really clear on how each of you contributes. So I'm hoping at the end, you know, we've talked about this and talked about this, that we're all stars. In orientation, which I'm doing again in a few weeks, I say, you know, who saves patients' lives in this organization? And if by the end of the day, at the end of that meeting, not everyone's got their hand up, then I'm disappointed. Same thing with safety. If I talk about safety, and it's not every single person's job in this room and in our organization, then we failed, because we're all here contributing to our overall success. Oh yeah, and can you believe it's been 2 years since the survey, so we're doing another one. So I know everyone's gonna run to their computer to fill that out, and I hope that you give us great constructive feedback so that we together can continue to make this place better and better every day. Okay, allies. So what we're after here is deeper. Oh, I'm going too slow, says Mike. Speed it up, man. Okay, I'm moving, right? Less stories and get going. So big surprise, our allies. It's what supports the whole mission. We've got this little thing called the Capital Campaign. Build this already iconic brand and make it even more iconic. Make our donor experience, Jeff Quick said a long time ago, if our donors felt as special as our patients, then we will have arrived. So remarkable donor experience and continued focus on diversifying our funding streams. So remarkable donor experience and building an iconic brand. So what did we do? In building the iconic brand, I think everybody can see that lots looks different this year. We really changed up our Stars Lottery. So for those of you who haven't heard it in other provinces, now you turned on the TV and you saw a babbling brook and maybe a little deer having a drink out of the babbling brook, and then you hear the sound of the rotor blades. And it says, you know, the most reassuring sound you can hear, right? When you're hurt. Versus the old way of approaching the lottery was, buy your tickets now, right? And so we really took a risk this year in being closer to align to who we are. And I think we really succeeded very well. And that's going to be translated in just a couple of weeks over to Saskatchewan as we launched the lottery. Digital storytelling. So those of you who haven't met Lyle will, because he's been everywhere. And Lyle's really changed stuff up for us. We've been doing a lot of more video and really embedding stories on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and other places to really start telling our story in a different way. We did a lot here. We are moving forward with what we think is compelling language and trying to really push that we are all stars. So lots and lots of work there. So next year, continue to work on that We Are All Stars campaign. We are launching a new online presence, and we're going to explore virtual reality and other mediums to tell our story. So our website is, our new website is being launched externally. We're really excited about it because it's a really important touch point for many. Last year, we had over 680,000 people visit our website. In total, more than 2.8 million page views were taken. And so really important that this starts to look and feel different. The old website, you couldn't really access from a mobile device, right? So those are the things that really, really need to change to be with the modern age. So we're going to give you a little sneak peek today. So the new website has been completely rebuilt and using our new brand language. As well, it's been designed using modern technologies to make sure that you can view it from your tablet or your iPhone. You can actually go in and see individual VIP stories. That immersive storytelling feature. So if you don't know much about us, hopefully this will really serve as an engaging, very dynamic way to introduce an individual to stars. You can go in on just about anyone and dig a little further, whether it's a board of directors or actually follow a mission. It's pretty cool. Highlights all of the people that work here and make you understand what we're all about. So it's pretty amazing. Mike, when's it launched? Next few weeks. So it looks, I think, a little bit more like us. So pretty excited to see that coming. So the diversification of our funding stream, Stephen's going to come up and talk about what he and his team have been up to over the last year, but I'm just going to give you a peek into a couple of things we did. So in ELC, we talked about diversifying. We're really, really heavily reliant in ECC and work alone and the like on oil and gas. So this year landed a few clients in school districts, transportation, insurance, and construction. So that's a big change. It's great. So there's more we can do. Like if you look at, we're pretty saturated in Alberta and Saskatchewan. And are there geographic things that we could grow there as well? Military training contract, I'll tell you a little bit about, that started in this fiscal year and will continue into next. So what are we going to do next year? That geographical expansion for the ELC, better and stronger evaluation criteria so that as opportunities come towards us, it's crystal clear on how we weight things and determine yes or no. And then, continuing to look at RFPs when they come to market and what additional revenue perhaps we could receive and or could we be broadening our reach. So military, we've heard that military has always gotten their training for in-theater contracts for them through the U.S. military. And so they're looking at, would we at STARS consider what it would look like to train their medics and nurses for looking after very sick patients in the theater of war. And so Dave and his team are helping Stephen to have a peek at that, and we'll see. So this is not, what I say to everybody, the opportunities, none of them are secret. At the same time, we want to be really cognizant that a company may be looking at us or not. And so we don't want to ever assume that our eggs are hatched before they actually are, but we are looking at that would be a very, very nice fit with us. Could potentially be a great contract for us, and Jane's rolling her eyes. Like, what are you talking about? Easy for you to say, Robertson, is what she's saying. And it'll all come down to you, Jane, but we know you can do it. Okay, am I getting another red flag? All right. So that's a short mini tour through the strat plan and what we did last year and what we want to accomplish in the year ahead. You feeling exhausted? I am. Certainly need some water. But if you were to say, okay, that's all good, Andrea. There's little bits and pieces, and yeah, we've got a new data warehouse, and yeah, safety's done a lot, but I didn't talk about it. Sorry, folks. I think Jan might touch on that just a little bit. But can we all remember why we're here? Is it clear to every single one of you why we're here? Well, I think we had a really good reminder this week. So, you know what I say, and said lots over the last week, is the number of patients that we looked after in Saskatchewan a week ago Friday night is the number of patients we look after every day before noon. On average, we look after that many patients before noon. But the Humboldt tragedy was different, I think, for everybody because it touched every Canadian. We are talking about, does anybody who have a child who hasn't put them on a bus for some sort of sporting event, an arts event, a school field trip, all of your kids have likely been on a bus. People can completely relate to that. It touched people in all three of our provinces and beyond. We had messages from major hockey teams in the US directly to us. And so I know Saskatchewan has lived a lot of scrutiny and a lot of attention and focus over the last week. I know that this event touched many of our providers in all of our provinces because we've all been to a similar event. It is indeed what we do, but what's extraordinary for me was how it outlined not how only extraordinary our crew was, but how unique STARS is and how it does indeed take a village and a community. So, if I could just for a minute. There were over 100 volunteers and first responders at the scene of that accident. 100. We weren't one of them. So that night, we did a couple of very, very extraordinary things. 2 aircraft were sent from Alberta, thanks to Dr. Eddie Chang. Let me tell you what was so unique about that. Blood was put on board those aircraft. That's not possible in any other system. We have a system where we can put blood, lots of units, and send it across the border with no order. But Eddie did it because we like breaking rules and doing the right thing. So we got blood there. We got additional resources there. 2 Saskatchewan Air Ambulances, fixed wing went, and a private. We delivered physicians, our transport physicians, to 2 small centers. And Cindy, if I get any of this wrong, you can kill me later. But Dr. John Froh, our medical director from Saskatoon, was actually on fixed wing and went to Tisdale. One of our physicians from Saskatoon also, we delayed the aircraft launch, Star 11, to pick her up and take her to Nipawin, Dr. Shauna Vandekamp, and purportedly most red patients went there and she made a gigantic difference to many, many lives. We took extra crew. We had a physician who was visiting family in Regina who phoned Dr. Terry Ross and said, "Can I go? I'm here visiting family." Yep, just delayed the night crew. So day crew went, night crew went, off we went. I got messages on social media, why didn't you send a fourth aircraft from Saskatoon? Phil got asked whether we could fly different kind of aircraft. Phil said maybe not, but could we? And we could have if we'd had another operational machine, but we didn't. So we, in totality, looked after 4 patients. We had nurses and paramedics working for other agencies that also fly for us, who are also looking after patients. Our emergency link center was on the phone for over 8 hours, linking in all of those services and coordinating every single thing we did. What would they have done without us? What would have it looked like 6 years ago if we hadn't been there? Would the outcomes be the same? Maybe. But I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of emergency responses and I've never seen one this good. What I've been told is extraordinary what happened that night. And the outcome is bad. But that group of people came together. Yep, we did land. We weren't needed. And we went to both Tisdale and Nipawin and helped look after patients. Does anyone need a reminder of why we're here? Every day, and you know, it's funny, I was getting interviewed by CTV or CBC National in the hangar on Sunday in Saskatoon, and the reporter who was live in my headset from Toronto's like, "What's the delay?" And I'm like, "Well, we're going to look after another patient, so you're just going to have to wait until we pull out because someone else needs us." And so for me, this is an extraordinary example of how a community, first responders who were absolutely extraordinary that night, a health system that just went like that, and all of what we provided, all 42 members of STARS that was involved last week ago Friday night, we have a great deal to be proud of. I was asked many times, has STARS been ever to anything that bad? And I said yes. But nothing that had this level of media and ongoing story that's hard for our people. But we will go to something bad again, and this much I know, will be even better next time because of the learnings from last Friday night. Because this is an organization that continuously learns and gets better every time. I couldn't be prouder. Now we're going to take a break. Welcome back. Oh, now the mic works. Awesome. So, without further ado, I'm just going to introduce you to more of your hilarious colleagues. Just another quick little video.
I have quite a few highlights from my time working here so far, but one of them that sticks out the most was actually working in this hangar last year for our open house, when I got tapped on the shoulder by a woman saying I had transported her dad the year before. When she gave me the details, I got a little sad because I actually remembered the call and I didn't think that he had survived. But as I turned around, I saw this little man shuffling towards me with his arm stretched out to give me a big hug and thanking me for being a part of saving his life.
It's hard to pick one highlight.
So what was my highlight?
One of the most special highlights for me.
I have so many fond memories of my time here at STARS.
When you're in the community and you're talking to someone and you realize that we've made a difference in their lives.
He was a perfect stranger, and he just asked if he could give me a hug to say thank you for everything that we do, because we had saved a family member.
But also the highlights of seeing our VIPs.
Very much so. And see the family and see the outcomes. It's very positive and rewarding.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Yeah, that's wonderful.
A VIP visit with a critically injured child who we transported and despite all odds survived and was able to come to the base and reclaim another star bear that he had lost.
We had conducted an education session for some rural paramedics, and about 2 days later I received an email from one of those paramedics that the next day she had a very challenging airway case and that she used a lot of the lessons and simulations that we had taught. And that really helped her, and the patient had a positive outcome.
It's the first time that I met
one of the donors who came into the base. She was a 10-year-old girl who had grown vegetables all through the season and decided that whatever she sold, she would donate to STARS.
We're creating one of our favorite memories at STARS right now at the Radway and District Friends of STARS, and they're raffling off a baby goat.
My first evening in Grand Prairie before I was to start for work the next day was actually attending the Grand Prairie Hanger Dance. It was really neat getting to see a lot of members from the local community out supporting STARS, and an interesting setting for meeting my future coworkers.
Being part of the first Ride the Hanger event in Saskatoon, all of the hundreds of people coming together, it was absolutely incredible. We truly can't fight for life without our community.
To work with the Fleet Replacement Committee, which will shape the future of STARS for the next 30 years.
Being invited to be one of the team members at the G8 in Kananaskis.
It was history in the making when the County of Grand Prairie became the first municipal leader to receive logo recognition on STARS helicopters.
Being at the celebrations where one of our local municipalities were the first municipality to raise over $1 million.
Hearing those two words, skids up, when a helicopter leaves to go on a mission, and then skids down at a receiving site. And those two words bring a great rush of adrenaline and satisfaction to know that you've sent a helicopter out on a mission and they return safely with a patient to their destination where they need to be.
Mic on? All right, it's on. Awesome. Okay, business development's the next thing we're going to talk about. Last year, you may recall, we had a big picture on the screen that showed our sources of revenue. Big chunk from government, big chunk from the foundation, and then this little slice of the pie from BD. And so moved forward, and we hired this our fearless leader, Stephen Sims, to lead the team. And small team, but effective team to see if we could grow that pie just a little bit more. So I think that people say or think, when I've had some feedback about, well, what is this business development thing? And just to remind everybody, not new. So we've been doing emergency contact center, work alone monitoring, made money on the G8 summit all those years ago that was just mentioned, the Manitoba floods. All of those things are opportunities that came our way that we did actually make some money on. So not new to us, but hopefully we're gonna grow it. Stephen, no pressure, come on up.
So good morning. I trust you're all doing well. You know, next month is 12 months at STARS for me. And someone said, what have you learned about yourself since you've been at STARS? And I said, I think hugging is okay. I'm comfortable with it. I'm excited to be here this morning to give you an update on business development. I'm not going to give you anything that's groundbreaking. I just want to walk you through some slides of basic foundational steps and guiding principles for me and my team that will help us be successful in the long run from a business development perspective. So you may ask yourself, where do you start? When you start to incorporate a more structure around business development, what is your starting point? Where do you start? Where do you begin? This is where we begin. One of the things I've always incorporated in my teams is circle of control. One of these things is you focus on what you know today, and you focus on what you can control today. There's always those things in our business and in our operations that we're concerned about, and there's always those things that we would like to or can influence. But to better influence them or take care of those concerns, it's better to focus in your circle of control, because that's where proactive teams and organizations work. The success rate is high there. And the reason why you focus in that control circle is for many factors. One, for a brand new team, as Andrea said, to STARS, it creates movement in your business development. It creates energy, and it creates motivation and engagement within the team and within the organization. And the more success you have in that control circle, the better you will be to influence those things that you need to influence and take care of those things that you need to be concerned with. I use it to the analogy of baseball. Our job really in business development is to get runs across the plate, drive runs across the plate in an efficient manner. And in a game of baseball, it takes 4 base hits to get a run across the plate. But every now and then, you hit a home run, you hit a grand slam, and it has a significant impact on the game, no different in business. Our base hits, when we sign a new contract for the Emergency Link Center, that's a run across the plate. Eventually, we'll hit a grand slam, eventually we'll hit a home run, and it will have a significant impact on the organization. So that's where we started. Our next step was, what's the strategy for the business development team? Where do we play ball in the bigger arena called STARS? And I hope that when we talk through all this, you will see that, or I hope I impress on you that the most important thing to us and the organization is our brand, which is STARS. It's bigger than anything that we do. It's at the forefront of everything that we do. And every time we talk about a new idea or new venture, we say, how does this impact the brand that we've come to know in Western Canada so great, that's STARS. So our job in business development, really, when you look at the bigger strategy for the organization, is threefold. Is to create diversity in our funding streams, is to simplify how we operate and whatever venture we bring into the organization, how do we simplify it? Simplification gets executed. And how do we evolve to broaden our reach? And if you look at the bigger organizational strategy, you'll see 2 of those in there. Diversifying our funding streams and broadening our reach. And that's where business development really focuses their energy. Now, in order to execute a strategy, you need to have enablers, those things that will help you potentially have a greater likelihood of success when executing your strategy. And those enablers are at the bottom. I'm only going to talk to 1 or 2 of them for shortage of time. One is talent. You need to have talent. I think we've assembled a great business development team here at STARS. Very talented, very diverse, and they bring collectively over 80 years of experience to this department. So I believe we have the right talent, and I'm very proud of them. Performance. Unlike anything we do in operation, you must measure yourself to a level of performance, and you'll see that later in our slides in terms of how we hold ourselves accountable, in terms of how we're performing, how we're meeting our objectives, etc. And then Andrea talked a lot about data and technology earlier. It's 2018. If you're not using data and technology to help guide some of your decision making, it doesn't make the decisions for you, but it helps guide you, you might be missing the boat, because there's a lot of intelligence in data and technology that can give you better sound decision making. Now, there's a process in business that we like to call earning the right to grow. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but I'll give you a couple of points here and you can understand the flow. You just don't start business and go into something that's brand new and uncommon to you, et cetera, especially in an established business like STARS, who's been around for 33 years and we have a brand to protect. We start small. We start by selling existing products that we currently have to existing customers. So we talked a lot about that earlier. Every time we sell a work alone monitoring contract or a site registration contract or to be the connection center or the 1-800 service center for a company, that's selling a product that we know. That's something ELC is capable of doing. We got great staff in there. They know how to do that. They know how to manage that client. That is not far out of our reach. It doesn't bring any harm to the brand, right? Creates movement. When you get to the bottom, there's a question mark there opening up in new competitive arenas. And I put the question mark there for a reason. Because when you get into this type of growth, it requires more financial capital. It requires more human capital. And it really takes us in streams that we may not be as comfortable with. It may be complementary, but it really takes us out of our swim lane, so to speak. So you have to grow properly. And because of that, when you go through these steps in a proper manner, you reduce the risk to the organization and your likelihood of success increases. The other part of our strategy is every idea that we move forward with gets filtered through this process. Andrea talked about the RFP for Kamloops, the RFP for Prince Albert. These ideas didn't get past the evaluation stage. All of our ideas go through this process, and if they make it through to the end, then the likelihood of us executing them increases. But if they don't, we stop because there's a reason why we're not moving forward. It's not a benefit to the organization and as we see it. So this is another process that helps us mitigate risk to the organization and set us up for success. So where did we start? Like I said, ELC. One of the things we did, we created more structure to the sales process in ELC, largely on Brad's desk. We introduced HubSpot, which is very similar to Razor's Edge for those fine folks working in Foundation, is our customer relationship management tool. We put all our prospects in there. We started with 0. We had close to 1,000 right now. We manage the prospects. We know where they are at the stage, whether they're introductory, negotiating a contract is signed. We know the step of the customer all the way along. We brought on a system called Phantom Business Solutions, which is a lead generation system. Consider that as a silent sales team that works outside of STARS, and based on parameters that we give them, they go out and find us prospects for contracts for the ELC Center, whether it's work alone or site, et cetera, et cetera. Andrea talked about geographical expansion. We work with the fine folks in ELC. We uploaded the 911 data for US, and we're going to estimate or analyze when we're going to upload the 911 data for Eastern Canada. We're a little saturated in Alberta, but by expanding to North America, it really unsaturates us and it opens up new clients. And we created a new digital sales material that we send to our clients, which gives us an excuse to phone them back and see if they read it. It's industry specific. There's transportation section in there. There's a forestry section in there. There's oil and gas. Here's what we have done. Everything on the left are contracts that have been closed recently. And everything on the right, we expect them to close very soon. And we also have 3 more large companies in the pipeline. I only show this slide because Andrea talked about it earlier. It's the diversity in the business that we're generating out of ELC. Not just your oil and gas and your energy sector. We're in the school districts, insurance companies, et cetera, and et cetera. It's expanding what you already do well into new customers. Our next phase is retail. You're going to say, Stephen, why retail? Well, because retail is like ELC. It's not something that we have to learn. Retail is a core competency of mine and most of my team. We can take retail and take medical products and find a retail partner like PharmaSave. I know Bert in the Capital Campaign Office just signed PV Mart. That's another great retailer that we can partner with. We can establish retail medical products and establish them in areas where the brand stars got equity. And we're greater than does the brand stars have equity than in a lot of parts of Western Canada, especially in our rural areas of Western Canada, which is where PharmaSave predominantly sits up shop. I said earlier, we talk about data and technology. We're no different. We use the data warehousing system. We create our own interactive dashboards. We know where we are from a revenue perspective. We know where we are at any given time from an expense perspective. They're all interactive. You can click on these dashboards. You can pick up all our top companies, top 10 customers by registration sites, top 10 customers by ELC. Anything that we need to know, you click on the dashboards, the dashboard will tell you. Also, we provide insight. The last portion of what we do, if we go down the road for a new venture, we go and we collect any information and data on that new venture. It's called Business Insight, and Francina is great at that. She'll give us all the information we want to know about that organization or that company, and it enables us to make a more intelligent decision of whether or not we should move forward in the process. I'm not going to go through this. Andrea spoke about this earlier, but the one point that I do want to talk about here is we get a lot of ideas that come across our plate, which is fantastic, because the biggest thing to business development is a lack of ideas. But when you get ideas coming across your plate, you can't do them all. So how do you evaluate the ideas with certain criteria to move them forward into the next process? So that comes in Q1. where we will have criteria established that any idea coming across our plate, we can quickly do an analysis and say, does that have the return on investment where we would want to put that through the process and do the analyzation and the evaluation, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, not groundbreaking, just basic steps and foundational steps to set us up for long-term success. Thank you very much.
So the question is, what have you learned about STARS since joining?
Well, I've learned that...
What I learned I didn't know before I started STARS. A lot of things.
What I've learned about STARS is just how much we mean to the public. I really didn't have a clue.
I had no idea what was involved in keeping an aircraft serviceable and ready to fly at all times.
The depth of involvement of fundraising.
I knew that STARS had a lottery, but I had no idea how extensive the fundraising process is.
That made me so appreciate the work that our foundation does.
We are fortunate to have world-class training that allows us to provide the best critical care in the air. Don't you agree, Stan?
I had no idea about the Emergency Link Center, everything we do for site registration, and the Solus app.
The amount of logistics, coordination, and integration, communications that the ELC provides for safe and timely transport of our patients.
From taking the initial call to
Finding the location of the patient,
arranging ground ambulances or rendezvous spots,
getting there quickly,
connecting the AMC in the back to the hospitals,
the care of the patient,
giving us patient updates,
and then understanding where we're going to take them back to. And
But I love the attitude that people bring to the patient and the problem that they're having, which is can do.
We are constantly looking at different ways to innovate,
Can we map this better? Can we fly the helicopter further, faster?
to be leading edge in order to improve the lives of others.
Is this safe? Why can't we bring blood on board? Could we fly with NVGs? And I love that can-do attitude that continually inspires you to learn and grow.
We're always changing, we're always growing, we're always advancing and learning, and we're always looking for a new way to save just one more life.
Everybody bringing their own level of expertise and combining it to be much more than just the sum of the group.
It takes an incredible amount of people to do the work that needs to be done in saving people's lives.
What I know about STARS is everyone behind the lines, especially with foundation, administration, engineering, pilots, like how much team it takes to do what we do. Absolutely. Yeah, that's wicked.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. So what some of you may not have seen is Stephen said he's comfortable with hugging. We're not sure we really believed him. So when he walked off stage, Jan gave him a big bear hug. So thanks, Stephen. Yeah, and he's not comfortable yet, just saying. But we'll get him there. So it's my pleasure next to introduce Jayan, who is, I describe as a bit of a unicorn to our organization. So I met Jayan when I was 8, when he was a resident at the General and I was working in ICU. And then I got to know him as the department head of anesthesia when I was running the Foothills. And he's had progressively huge roles. And yeah, I heard that he flew for, STARS, heard that. So Jayan's been with us for a long time. And as you know, he came on as our chief medical officer and brings a lot of skill and ability in that regard. He's run gigantic departments and has dealt with lots and lots of very sick people. And then just recently we asked him if he could also be our chief aviation officer. And he said, well, might have to give up one or two things. And he is unique and special, and we are very, very fortunate to have him. There are Calgary team probably and Edmonton could tell you the most funny stories about going on missions and asking the pilot to do just a little something on the side. And I was at one where we asked you to come in and maybe put in a femoral art line. And he said kind of, gosh, darn gosh, don't really think the patient needs it. And everyone in the room, all the physicians are like, who is that guy? He's a really good pilot, but he also might be the head of anesthesia too. So we're very, very fortunate to have Jayan leading us. And he's going to talk to you about why we're so darn good and what we've achieved. Jayan, welcome.
Thanks, Andrea. Maybe a little over the top, but when I look at things and I look at my 27 or 28 years here, you know, I ask myself, why do I do it? Why do I come to STARS? Why am I just like a bad debt that never goes away? And I think we all have almost the same answer. You know, I think we recognize that STARS is a great organization, and we do an important job, and we do it very well. It's important that we do it well. You know, it's important for the Chelseas that we have. It's important for the next bus crash or tornado. We owe it to our next patient to excel at what we do. So we do look at that not working, Mike? Thanks. So we do look at how we excel and how are we going to ensure that we excel in the future. And I'm going to divide it into 3 areas, patient care, education, and the aviation side of the house. So the 5 ways in patient care, to start off with, is our model. You know, we're a physician-led organization. We have our medical crew consisting of the paramedic and nurse. That's an intentional design. We managed to capture the best of both worlds there. We have physicians involved 24/7 on all aspects of the mission. As we've matured as an organization, as our AMCs have advanced their scope of practice, docs are less and less necessary on missions and probably go on less than 10% now, but they are available. And as we look across the country, we realize that this is an outstanding model. The next, very proud to talk about our CCMCPs. Those are our critical care medical control protocols. They're the protocols or algorithms that guide our care in different circumstances that we may come across. We played an extremely important role in their development and now in their maintenance. We've actually led the way there. And I think one of the ways that we know we're excelling is the fact that our CCMCPs are used across the 3 provinces now, not only in our own organization, but provincially as well. Orange in Ontario has adapted our CCMCPs for their control protocols. They're used in the Northwest Territories by their medevac program, and we've recently been asked by BC Health, BC Emergency Services, if they can use them as well. So I think, you know, there's no better acknowledgement of the importance and the good work we do than that. Thanks. Going to move across the provinces. You know, one of the markers that we use is the involvement in our physicians and our crews at different levels. Online medical control in Alberta. So our TPs are also online for ground and fixed wing, providing advice to care providers in those circumstances. Most recently in Manitoba, we've been asked to provide medical control for ground EMS for trauma patients. And then in Saskatchewan, for the last number of years, our transport physicians have actually worked with the community collaborative emergency centers in rural Saskatchewan. There are 5 or 6 rural facilities that are not manned by a physician at night. They are manned by a paramedic and nurse, and our TPs in Saskatchewan provide medical direction. So again, you know, what a better vote of confidence than that. You have to be sure you just don't believe your own press. You know we do a good job, but we spend a lot of time analyzing our missions. I'll come to the aviation side in a second, but clinically, we look at our patient care records. Every patient care record is looked at for quality assurance purposes. It's looked at by peers, by our AMC, looked at by physicians, if necessary by the medical directors. We look for various markers to make sure that we're providing outstanding clinical care. We put a lot of focus and attention on this, and that helps ensure us that we're doing excellent work. You don't get to be that good without education, and so we have an extremely robust education system. Thank you, Jane, and everybody else. We have significant in-house AMC training from all the way from the Academy, the Acute Skills Institute, the simulation programs that we do. And an example just happened on Saturday where Eddie Chang in Edmonton organized a physician-led conference for basically medical updating for our AMCs and TPs. It's probably attended by close to 20 physicians in Edmonton, 60 people, and also had attendance by Calgary, Regina, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, and Grand Prairie by video conference. an outstanding conference. Learned lots, and that's just one way we're staying ahead and staying in keeping up with excellence. But how better to verify that than to put ourselves up against the best in North America and the world. And I think everybody's well aware that Shannon and Thomas placed second at the AMTC simulation competition in Dallas this fall. And they, quite frankly, have just carried on through the tradition that we've established over the last number of years. Jane's been leading and spearheading a transition of our education program to a competency-based education program. So not only is the education based on competency-based goals, but we're assessing it with a tracking program that looks at how we've attained them. Because don't forget, our AMC and our TPs, they work here, but they may also work in other environments, and where they're exposed to critically ill and injured patients. And they're doing procedures there. They're being exposed to head injuries and respiratory problems. And those skills are adaptable here as well. So we put all that together to make sure that our crews are getting the experience that they need. Andrea, to the board, described our operational crew like a bunch of thoroughbreds. Literally, they have the bit in their mouth and they want to go. And I think that's sort of manifest or reflected in the ever-increasing scope of practice that we have for our AMCs. A couple examples of that. Well, we heard about one with Dr. Srigney and the finger thoracostomy. Thank you very much. Another one that has quite a head of steam is ultrasound. We've just finished a pilot project in Winnipeg on the use of pre-hospital ultrasound by our AMCs, and it was a resounding success. In fact, the unaffiliated, so independent physician in Manitoba who assessed our AMC and their skills at ultrasound said that they were better than any physician group they've looked at in the last number of years. So kudos to them, a big success. We'll be looking at rolling it out as appropriate to the rest of the organization as we can. Arterial blood gases is another one. That's just a very specific medical procedure where you look at blood gas from an artery, or look at blood from an artery. You can better measure blood gases. You can better measure other lab values to give us a better sense of how our patients are doing. Up until now, that's been pretty much either a physician or RT delegated function, but our AMCs have the skill and the capability to do that, and we're going to facilitate that. And how do we excel in aviation? Well, right off the bat, it's the crews that we get. We attract and hire experienced aviators. We attract and hire experienced engineers and support people. And then we put them in a two-pilot environment, twin-engine turbine helicopter, all the latest avionics capable of flying on instruments. Our folks are trained to do that if necessary. We led the way in NVG. People may not realize, but I do believe, Phil, we were the first civilian organization certainly in Canada, to fly under NVG back in the early 2000s, and we just continued to develop that. So definitely cutting edge. And other organizations are just now catching up to us with that. We're not stopping there. We're looking at any number of things as part of a broader safety management system. We have an active safety program. An SMS, or safety management system, will be a big part of that. And that has a number of different components. One of them is an FRMS, a fatigue risk management system. We've started that process just last fall with introductory training for our pilots and engineers in AMC, and we will be rolling that out to the rest of the organization as is appropriate. Another example of how we look to make sure we're safe and efficient is our FOQA program. FOQA stands for Flight Operations Quality Assurance. Over the last couple of years, we've evolved the capability to go back and analyze our flights for a number of different parameters, and we're doing that. And we're looking at it from a lens of, are we flying safely, and are we flying efficiently? And that program continues to evolve. It is cutting edge, and I'm proud to say that that's a big part of our aviation side of the house going forward. And flight operations quality, FOCO I've talked about, flight data management is part of that as well. We're taking a lot of data. You've heard about data all morning. This is another aspect of data that we'll be looking at and will be important. We have our lovely BKs, you know, that we've had for 30 years. They've been a workhorse. They've served us well. They'll need to serve us a few more years yet as we introduce the 145. And so we need a program to keep them safe, keep them up and running, and keep our operation at 24/7, 365. Also cutting edge on the aviation side of the house with, again, with data. And we're converting to an electronic format. Up until now, I think everybody's seen pilots at the terminal dragging a big bag behind them. It used to be that was all the charts and maps and everything they needed. Well, now we all have them on an iPad. So we have an electronic flight bag. Very efficient. You can flight plan, you can file flight plans. You have all the data you need to operate safely right there. And iAuditor is a tool just to ensure that we're doing what we think we're doing and that we're doing it safely. So, you know, while this focused on the operational side of the house, you know, I know that we all strive to excel in what we do. It doesn't matter whether you're the AMC, the pilots, engineers. I'm going to forget a group somehow here, but our admin folks, the foundation, the board, our transport doctors, medical directors, the executive. We all strive to excel. I know we do. It's important. And as much as anything else, I'd like to thank you for all that effort that goes into making sure that we're an excellent, safe organization. Thanks.
It was my own personal experience when my son was very ill with cancer and STARS was not yet available in northern Alberta. This is what brought me to STARS.
One of the biggest things I take pride in is that we are able to give hope to people on their worst day.
We get to save grandmas and mums and dads and grandpas and give them a chance to spend some more time with their family that perhaps they wouldn't have had if STARS wasn't available.
Getting to meet all the wonderful VIPs that come back to the base and meet their crew and tell their story.
What keeps me motivated is getting to meet people who are either personally flown by STARS or maybe we flew their family members.
It just makes my heart swell when I hear their stories.
I'm proud to be part of an organization where passion, dedication, and commitment to saving lives is our number one priority.
Right from day one, you know that the patient is the number one priority.
Literally is the patient at the end of the mission. Why I'm so proud to work for STARS is the incredible team that I get to work with each and every day.
I also had a lot of pride when my boys asked me to come to career day instead of their dad because my job was way cooler. He's a cop.
The excellent patient care that we get to provide to our patients on a regular basis. Plus, I absolutely love skid steers too, and I hope that one day I can drive it just like my pilots.
I feel pride in my work as a clinical educator when I can build scenarios and I see our teams finesse through those scenarios.
I'm very proud of the fact that people call STARS for help.
Pilots, nurses, engineers, front staff, that's what keeps us going.
What motivates me the most are the challenges we face every day, whether it's logistics, coordination, patient access, integration into our chain of survival, lottery funding, foundation work that's going on, communication with our communities and municipalities.
And we save lives. It truly doesn't get better than that.
I told my wife I want to be the oldest working paramedic in Alberta, and I'm slowly getting there.
I'm surrounded by a group of people who all want to be the best at what they do every day.
And we really have to be on top of our game to be able to provide the best care possible for our patients.
They're all just a little bit competitive.
I feel fortunate to be part of it, and I feel appreciated by the rest of the team members. There's not much more anyone could ask for in a job.
You know, there's a lot of work going on here. Samir is doing cybersecurity to make sure that we're safe from that perspective. He's evaluating that. There's lots going on in IT. There's a lot going on in safety. when we're looking at, you know, Shannon just sent me a review that was really, really detailed, that went to many, many people. We are always looking to be safer and better. We've got all this stuff going on in HR, of whether it's a people plan, but HR has been doing some heavy lifting. We did how many policies this year? Like seriously, I know it sounds like it's such fundamentally important work. We're looking at our stewardship. We're doing a great job. Deb went out to the United Farmers of Alberta with Brad and I think with Megan, right? To show that we're one place when we come to you, and we're here to talk to you about business, but we're also here to talk to you about raising money. This is a well-oiled machine. Yes, JN. I said, I don't know if I didn't say thoroughbreds, his word's better. I said racehorses, trying to hold everybody back because everybody's so excited about doing better and better work here. Jay's new here, new controller, bringing lots of new stuff to finance. I look around and there's not a person here that I can't see Miss Shirley doing the big smile. Lots and lots of incredible work. Last week with the whole Humboldt thing, when we were having a chat at the base, the people so impacted were our admin staff and our foundation staff. So they've never received texts and emails from so many of their friends and colleagues asking questions about what we do, what we did do. It was an example of us all being pulled a little bit closer. I'm extraordinarily proud of the work you do. And I really hope you see your place in it, because I sure see it. And I think that we're going to do incredible work over the next couple of years, and no pressure, but we will deliver. So with that, lunch at all the bases. Have a good time. Have a great day. Hope it's not snowing where you are. Goodbye.